course, I'm with the famous Alan Brunacini, and you're here at the Eastern Oklahoma County Technology Center, and you get a great talk about the direction of, or some of the things you need to think about with incident command. So, for those that didn't get a chance to, what's the main theme of your talk tonight?
I have been trying to make sense out of and to try to do a better job of explaining what the role of the incident commander is in the very beginning of local events, where there's not very much information. The need for us to act is very, very urgent. The hazard zone is not well known to us. We don't know the status of the customers. And that IC has to immediately take command. They have to somehow develop an evaluation of what's the hazard level. They have to take control of their resources. If they're going to attack, they got to do it quick and then watch the effect of that. If they predict that situation is deteriorating, they have to be in a position where they can control the position and function of those resources, those firefighters, and get them out of that hazard zone. Yeah. And it's the most challenging, dangerous, episodic, exciting time of anything we manage, really. It's we're going to the OK Corral, and we're going to in a minute and a half the gunfight's over, almost. But it's translated in our terms.
Well, and one of the things I think was especially important was the modern building techniques and how they've really affected really compression of that time frame.
Absolutely. You're looking at lightweight construction. You're looking at heat signatures that are 10 times hotter than they were 20 years ago. They're 5 times quicker if you look at that fire profile. It used to be that fire progression was sort of a nice gradual sort of thing. Now it's almost vertical. And if you get caught in that vertical fire progression, sometimes you don't survive it. So this is what that incident commander is trying to manage, and it's really challenging. It's exciting, and they're very capable and skillful and all that, but we need to help them and provide more information and support and practice and that sort of thing. We're using a lot more high-fidelity simulations in the practice part. The procedures have got to be fast-tracked. We're going to thin slice the standard job of that IC, and what we would do normally in 15 or 20 minutes, you're going to say, you got to do it in 2 minutes, boss. Mm-hmm. Well, that's an ass kicker. I mean, you think about it. I mean, to say I got to do this whole thing in 2 minutes, well, yeah, in 2 minutes, you got to figure out if you ought to be in there or if you shouldn't. Now, sometimes it isn't that quick, but sometimes it is. If you're in the middle of the beginning, it is going quick. And if you're behind that power curve, you may not survive it. I mean, your troops may not survive it. So that's a pretty high stress, high performance kind of a requirement for that incident command system. And everybody.
Do you think that some of the technologies that are available to basically get people to practice that decision making in a very accurately simulated environment, is that going to have a lot of impact?
It's going to be better and better, I think. We're looking at high-fidelity simulations. We're looking at better media management. In other words, we're looking at simulations where you can practice the real stuff in a simulated environment where you don't have to be perfect. If you make a mistake, you get coached, you learn more, and so on. Yeah, no. And that's what we have to take advantage of, too. Places like this, you got VOTECs that are very, very sophisticated. You got guys like the guys that run this thing. They're PhD educational technologists. I mean, we need to take advantage of that. I mean, they're truly educators in the sense that we need them to be. I mean, they've devoted their lives to talking to learning about teaching and learning. I mean, and they're anxious to help us, aren't they?
Absolutely.
I mean, they're the greatest people in the world. I mean, what an asset, you know. So.
Well, one other area that's of particular interest is how when hazard materials started getting as to be a part of our thinking and part of our procedures, it's all based on chemistry and physics. The EMS is based on medical science. What about fire science? What's going to happen in that regard?
Well, the same thing. Is that we're talking about fire chemistry. We're talking about extinguishing agents. We're talking about building construction, which is regulated by engineering kinds of things. The way buildings are assembled, the way they're connected, the time frame when they're insulted by heat, the way they come apart, the way they behave. Now we're seeing with lightweight construction, and you're looking at a lot of the connectors that they're using, modern connectors. The weight of it, somebody said we traded mass for math, because now they're very engineered. They're better buildings than we've ever built before, unless they're burning. they're not built to burn. Older buildings were actually built to burn. They were heavy duty, they were fire cut, they were mill construction, and so on. Well, now they're not, and they're designed, if you talk to architects and developers, to get the people out, not to get firefighters in.
And as far as the system of this research that's going on at one end, and that research and the results of that getting down to where the rubber meets the road, what has to change in the system to make that process go quicker?
We have to take our operational systems and open it up to that information. In other words, we have to look at the fire testing they're doing. We need to look at more science, if you may. And I don't mean that a real complicated science, but basic physical science that examines the parts of our system that are critical. Again, thermodynamics, hydraulics kinds of things, engineering, and so on. In other words, those are science. That's science in the process. And it's not highfalutin science. It's not theoretical. And we need to open ourselves up to that, but then translate it into tactical terms that fire officers can crank into their decision-making process. We're not engineers and they're not firefighters. And I don't mean that critically. We all have our specialties. But we have to become a lot more sophisticated in accessing that kind of information to translate it into intelligence that we can use on the fire ground. And so we got to kind of go the long way around to be able to do that in that compressed time frame. So we may have to study for 5 years so that we can make a decision in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the guy said, it took me 40 years to be an overnight success. Well, because it's over quick when we go to the OK Corral. And so, I mean, that's a challenge for us too. You know, I think experience, we need to package up experience in a more transferable kind of way, where you got these old guys that have seen a lot of buildings burn, and you got a lot of young people coming into the service. We've got to be able to somehow translate that experience into usable terms for these kids, and I say that respectfully and affectionately. The kids know a lot today. The kids are the ones that will take information management now. And I mean, you can see tomorrow's, and I mean tomorrow's incident commander Google and stuff.
There you go.
But just saying, I'm going to Google that. I mean, that's what they do.
Yeah.
And they'll have it in 10 seconds. God damn it. You want to kill them. They're so smart. No, but you could see that, couldn't you? No, I mean, it sounds silly, but really, I mean, text messaging, the way these kids communicate. What? I don't know.
It's great to see what's going to come down.
Oh, I know it all. They're terrific. The kids are terrific too. Really, they are.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
Oh, not
with
at
us
all.
today.
Thank you. It's
Thank you.
It's always fun to come to Oklahoma.
All right.